All right, everybody, welcome and thanks for tuning in with Thom. We have a very special guest. There's a lot of people who've been following the upcoming key to the town, although some people call it a key to the city of Woodstock, New York, and as part to Todd Rundgren. And as part of the festivities, there is an organization called Hungry for Music that is partnering with the Spirit of Harmony Foundation on an instrument drive in the Woodstock area. And I have your official title, Jeff, is CEO of Hungry for Music, or founder,
Yeah,
or what do you prefer to go by?
director. I guess I founded the organization back in '94. '92, it was a benefit concert for the homeless, and that's where we got the name Hungry for Music. In '94 is when we became a nonprofit, and sort of evolved into an instrument giving program that's sort of blossomed, and this is our 30th year.
Wow.
And we're fast approaching 24,000 instruments donated, and all 50 states and 37 countries.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment, as I'm sure a lot of people watching know that trying to keep a not-for-profit afloat for 10 years is an achievement in and of itself, but to continue to stay active and grow for 30 years. I mean, that's an incredible story. What was you said there was a concert for the homeless, but what was the impetus or the event or the thing that moved you to this particular cause?
Well, I'm actually not a musician. I'm definitely a creative, but I think just growing up and realizing the healing quality and power that music has, and just realizing that in my life, and just wanting to do something to help others. I just feel that like that's the reason why we're here, or at least the reason why I'm here. And I just feel really lucky to have listened, I guess, to my intuition and just kind of followed it. And, I just, it's just really grown. And I think taking the baby steps like we have, it was a part-time endeavor for 12 years or so. And now it's like the post office. Instead of letters and parcels, we're getting just a nonstop flow of instruments, which is a great problem to have. I'm not complaining, but it's been amazing. And a lot of it, I think I just sort of laid the groundwork, and then right before the pandemic, we were on NPR Morning Edition, where there was a story about Hungry for Music. And then there was just a mention in AARP magazine, and Bruce Springsteen was on the cover. And there was a page that said a place to donate your stuff. And under music instruments, Hungry for Music was listed. And we just started getting a flow, boxes of instruments showing up on our doorstep. And it just kept flowing from there. Even during the pandemic, I guess during the pandemic, a lot of people were home and cleaning out their houses. So, it's just been a nonstop flow of instruments. And it's a great, like I said, it's a great problem to have. We're always looking for people to repair them. So if anybody's out there listening, give us a call.
And I mean, wow. I mean, ARP. It's interesting you mentioned that, because I'm 58. I don't know how old you are, but a lot 62. Of those artists. So we're about the same age, and it's just amazing how some of those great artists that we grew up listening to are now featured in AARP magazine, and they really do have some fantastic articles and interviews with these guys. And I mean, over 50 now, especially as a musician, doesn't seem like that old. Because I mean, look at Bruce, 75, still putting on 3-hour shows.
Yeah, it's amazing. He's really an inspiration for us geezers.
So, and you mentioned too, I mean, I think this is important, is that this isn't a lot of times, if I think of clothes donations, a friend of mine had a not-for-profit where he was accepting clothes, and people couldn't give him the clothes fast enough, but ultimately a lot of it was pretty gross, had holes in it. It wasn't usable. So that must have been one of the early challenges in terms of, like you said, somebody emptying the closet. But in your case, the donation really does need to be something that is either workable or fixable, right?
Yeah, well, we have the same issue, and I guess our philosophy is that we take it anyway, and we have a way. I mean, we do. I would say 30% of the instruments that are donated are, not, they've reached the end of their playing days, and so we found that repair schools. There's some we have. Uh, Repair people that assess instruments let us know it's like, yeah, this is like a major repair. If it's a major repair, we find repair schools. There's a couple that we work with, one in Colorado and one in Georgia, and we're looking to, there's others out there we just haven't connected with yet, but the ones that need major repairs go to the schools, and then the ones that are art, we find art for them.
Wow.
We've had a couple of art shows in the past, and place in New York called Materials for the Art that uh instrument donated probably 100 instruments to them so far this year. Instruments that just the end of their playing days, and so they find, or an artist they'll put a bulletin saying, we have this, an artist will, and from what I understand, it's a popular. Yeah, to answer your question, we definitely would prefer um uh instruments that don't really need too much work, but I think we've just sort of accept anything. We're being a little bit more picky. We don't want to, like, drum sets. We'll take if it's a drum set, we'll only if it's a complete set, and some of the larger electronics that are obsolete, some of the recording equipment that's old and obsolete, we don't really have a place for that, or large pianos. Sometimes we're able to facilitate the donation of pianos, like a grand piano. We facilitated several of those in our history, and but mostly it's brass, woodwind, and strings is what we're dealing with. We're always, I guess, we have the most need for marching band instruments and larger brass, but we had a rental company last year that went out of business, and they donated over 5,000 instruments to us, and was just quite a donation, and quite a task to bring it all in and assess it and inventory it. And a lot of it was in really good shape, so it was really a huge blessing, and made our request period less stressful, because we knew we had, we could fulfill the needs. So it's definitely been a labor of love, but that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah, those rental companies. I remember when I was a kid, my parents got a trumpet for me, and trumpet was a very difficult instrument for me to play. I admire anyone, and you mentioned marching bands, and I think I was part of maybe a jazz group or something in 5th or 6th grade, but the expense was really difficult on my parents. My dad had lost his job, and we rented the instrument, and eventually it was repossessed. I mean, you don't think about those stories being out there, but that is there's a real economic barrier.
I've heard stories. It's really, I'm not a fan of the rental companies, and I've heard stories that they've taken away the instrument from a kid in front of the class, and it's like, you got.
Oh yeah, they do.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how it went down with me. It's funny you bring that up. I mean, not funny in a hilarious way, but funny odd.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. I wish we were around and we could have gotten you an instrument.
Well, it just kind of speaks to the importance of something like this. Maybe some of the things that people don't think about in that. And I've worked with other charities. For example, a friend of mine who runs a food pantry, and people will criticize and say, "Oh, this woman pulled up in an Escalade." And I go, "Well, that her husband could have just lost his job after they bought the Escalade. I mean, financial hardships come in different shapes and forms, and the kids shouldn't be penalized."
Think about, I mean, we pretty much, we open up our request periods to basically schools, Title I schools. We're going to be in towards the end of that coming up next week, and from August through October, we have request period and we donated last year. We donated almost 800 instruments to like over 30 states. I think it was 32 or 33 states. And, we just, I feel like, we've laid the groundwork, and I feel like we will just keep growing. It's just a matter of keeping up with the demand and, getting the instruments in. And so far, it's happening. I mean, that instrument donation that we received last year was just, we couldn't be doing what we're doing now without that, and, and family, we get a lot of support from family foundations, and they just show up. Or a lot of the instruments, believe it or not, are donated through other kids doing a service project, like a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah service project, or Eagle Scout. I just picked up back here. The van is loaded with some stuff that we had picked up from a Girl Scout that did her Silver Star Award. And they had to do a service project, and she collected like 40 instruments. So, it's, I think early on I realized the importance of what it is for a kid to get his own instrument. And, and we've received notes where, from folks that, how it made a difference in their grandkid or their son's life. And so that's always fuel for the mission. That keeps it going. Whenever I felt like giving up, it's like, what am I doing this for? There's always something like that, that comes along that reminds me, of why we're doing what we're doing. So we've got a distribution center now, a place that can hold. We've got probably maybe 5,000 or 6,000 instruments in our inventory, and just a real blessing to have a place large enough to handle that. And we could even do events there, and we have some office space as well. We have an operations manager who we couldn't do what we do without her. She kind of keeps it going. So anyway, we just I guess the goal for us is just to keep giving out. I mean, I feel like, not to be corny, but I feel like these instruments are like a symbol of love. I mean, it's a way of spreading love and positivity, in the universe. And it's kind of simple. And I'm again kind of blessed, that it's grown, and getting the support that we have had from Todd Rundgren's group. The Spirit of Harmony is just amazing. We had a RV, Big Bertha, who's semi-retired now, but we did a instrument drive throughout the country back in 2017, and Todd's fans were just the best. I mean, they did so much, and I wanted to give a shout out. Some of the best experiences I had were with the folks in Tampa. I think Bob, Anthony, and Joey and Moreno. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget their
Must
names.
be Veronica Moreno.
I'm hoping everybody's doing okay, because they were, they were just really helpful in the instrument drives that we did down there, and all over the country. But I'm thinking of them because I know they've gone through a really difficult time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's the Todd Rundgren connection. Of course, you mentioned the Spirit of Harmony Foundation. That's how you and I came together as well. I know Gene and Ed introduced us that we could set up this video interview. But when I first heard the organization name, Hungry for Music, I thought of the Todd Rundgren's album, A Wizard of True Star, and there's one of the more popular cuts on there. It's called Hungry for Love. So I thought it was kind of interesting how you had that slight connection. And you had just mentioned, of course, giving the instrument to you is an act of love. So I think it all comes full circle when we include the whole Todd Rundgren connection for this particular instrument drive in Woodstock.
Absolutely. Yeah. I honestly wasn't familiar with that. So thanks for sharing that. But yeah, Gene and Ed have been really great to work with. And, Gene is holding a guitar collection for us now. We were in the Midwest and had a mishap out there, and with a truck, and we had to transfer everything into a big truck into a minivan, and it would have been impossible to try to the rest of our donations in the minivan. And so Gene helped us with taking part of it, some of the collection that wasn't going to get delivered. So it made it easier, to make those deliveries. But yeah, it's always nice to visit Jean. She lives a baseball throw from Wrigley Field, and I'm a huge baseball fan. So and that was one of the things, early on, starting the organization. This is when CDs actually sold, but I had this crazy idea to do a baseball theme CD. And the board that I had, it was at the very beginning of the organization. They thought I'd lost my mind, and it was just one of those intuitive things. It's like, you're supposed to do this, and so I did it. And we licensed Springsteen licensed Glory Days, and Bob Dylan licensed Catfish, and George Winston the pianist ended up being a really huge fan, and ultimately we ended up doing, I think, 10 volumes of this. It was called Diamond Cuts, and Bob Edwards had us on Morning Edition, and the last time I was on NPR Morning Edition, he said, anytime you do one of these, we'll have you on. And then he got fired and went to XM, but he was just a great supporter of what we're doing. And that was oddly, it kind of got the name out there a little bit. And then, CD sales just fell flat. So, and at that point, I guess we had gotten enough, but, there's definitely been some lean times, and, it's always a struggle, as we grow, there's, more cost and things like that. But, the universe always seems to come through. I just need to remember to ask.
Yeah. It's well, it's no small task, as said, to keep a not-for-profit organization going. And in your case, one of the biggest challenges has got to be just dealing with inventory. You're dealing with a lot of, physical things. And I know, the Spirit of Harmony, and that's one of the things that in terms of their mission is advocacy and connectivity and everything like that. So everybody works and it's a musical term, but they work in concert to kind of make these things happen. And it's, I think that's the other thing. You can't do it alone. When there's other organizations that maybe specialize in something that you aren't good at, you can find them, and then it all kind of comes together, which is exactly what's going on in Woodstock as far as the instrument drive there, which it sounds like it's going well. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really does. We had a call yesterday from Barconi's, which was a music store up there that went out of business a couple of years ago, but they still had some inventory left. And
wow,
they're donating like 40 stringed instruments that, basically are just going to need new strings, basically. And well, that's a huge gift. And I know that the folks in Bearsville, at the Bearsville Center, were saying that they've gotten a lot of response from it, and they're really excited about it. So, yeah, it's exciting. And, we definitely have some connections up there. And so I'm looking forward to getting up there. I'm going to be leaving the West Coast on Sunday, and should be there, and then stopping at our distribution center. And we're trying to, we've set kind of a lofty goal for ourselves this year with 5,000 instruments, and we're right around 2,000, and we're in the middle of our request period time, so that'll increase that. But we have a few more trips planned, in the South and in the Midwest that, hopefully we'll make it to that. And we just had someone donate 100 guitars, a company called Kennedy Guitars out of Washington State, and that's exciting too. So it's always something. It seems like it's I feel really lucky to be a conduit, for this work, for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're coming up to Woodstock. I'm looking forward to that. We'll get to see each other in person. I do a lot of Zoom interviews. I've talked to Gene and Ed via Zoom, and, we've met in person, but man, I think it's been since actually the last time I saw Gene and Ed was there. There was a concert. Todd was doing these shows and virtual shows in Chicago during the pandemic. So it's been quite some time. But, Bearsville, Woodstock, just beyond Todd Rundgren, just so many great records that were recorded there at that studio. And I don't know.
Oh yeah, the history. Yeah, the history is just cool. And I don't know where are you located? I'm not sure.
I'm near Buffalo, New York. I'm right between Buffalo and Rochester. So I grew up in Rochester, the home of Lou Gramm and Tony Levin and Steve Gadd, an Eastman School of Music. So there was a real rich music history in the area that I grew up in. But now I live close to Buffalo, so I can be closer to two things: my granddaughter Michelle, who I adore, and the Buffalo Bills, who I adore as well. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. They're having a good year. I think they're my defense on my fantasy team. But I'm a Saints fan personally, so but I gotta you gotta have some compassion or empathy for the Bills and their quest for a Super Bowl. And I'm definitely if you definitely make it to the Super Bowl, I'll definitely be pulling for you.
Awesome. Well, maybe one of these days you'd come up for a Bills game as well. So
oh yeah, as long as it's not, negative 20 degrees.
Those are the best games. We have a thing in Buffalo called a beer jacket. And it's a term we use for if you drink enough beer, you don't need to wear a jacket. So
okay.
Awesome. Well, listen, Jeff, I appreciate your time, and if you could just close with just some information regarding the where to donate again for Bearsville, which I'll put in the comment section or show notes for the YouTube channel, and then maybe your website and some stuff, and then we'll head out.
Yeah, all the information is on our website. A link to where you can draw all the locations for the drop-offs are on our website. You just go to hungryformusic.org and then scroll down to the events page and then follow the link. And any of the Spirit of Harmony will also have the information. You bring the day of the event is October 23rd at the Bearsville Center, and bring it the day of, and we'll have a van there. And luckily we have a storage unit nearby, and if we get an overflow, that's the issue. We had an instrument drive in Chicago, and we couldn't fit everything into the van. So I think Suzanne Daddario ended up had to take some of the stuff to her house and store it until we could get to it. So so hopefully we'll have that problem.
Yeah, Rundgren Nation has a way of coming together. So I'm sure whatever problem you face.
Yep, no doubt.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you very much, Jeff. I will look forward to seeing you in person. I will root for the Saints since you were kind enough to root for the Bills, and I don't think we're playing each other this year, so that's good. And I've got Rashid Shaheed on my fantasy team. So
okay, yeah, he's hit or miss. I mean, sometimes maybe I'm excited about their new quarterback, Radler. I wasn't really a fan. I wasn't happy necessarily that Carr got hurt, but I wasn't necessarily a fan of him either. So we'll see what happens. It's a good diversion in these crazy times for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, very good. I will see you in Woodstock.
All right, Tom. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
All right. Okay.
Take care.
We are all set.